In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We are live, sir.
What's going on, buddy? It's not Wednesday at 3, but it's Monday at noon-ish.
It is Monday at noon-ish.
What's going on?
Not too much. I had a great weekend, but you are about to have a great week. So why don't we take a minute and tell the boys and girls why we're here on a Monday at noon-ish. It's a good reason.
Yeah.
It's a very good reason. And instead of Wednesday at 3 p. It's all you.
Well, our good buddy and multiple-time past guest of our show, Lawrence Dunning, is getting married, and he decided in very typical Lawrence Dunning fashion that he's going to do things big and extravagant. So he decided to have his wedding in Tahiti, actually the island of Moorea, which isn't even in Tahiti. It's in the French Polynesian, but it's a ferry ride away. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to be going there for his wedding, but I'm going to LA for a day, going to be hanging out with my buddy Matt. Have you ever heard of the app Turo?
I have not.
So Turo is a car rental app. So individual owners can rent out their car, and you just basically show up and you rent the car, and the prices are typically a lot cheaper than going through a rent-a-car place. So I rented a Lamborghini Spider tomorrow for the day. I won't even say how much it cost me, but it was a steal.
Okay.
I'll tell you off air. And my buddy Matt and I are going to go blasting through the canyons tomorrow in LA. So we're going to go on a little bit of a drive, do a scenic drive in LA. And then Wednesday, I'm going to fly to Tahiti. But I actually won't get to Moorea till Thursday.
So when you say, going back to the Lamborghini, that it's a steal, do you mean you got it for a steal, or
anybody could?
Or the person renting it to you is stealing money out of your pocket?
I got it for a ridiculous steal. I actually don't know how in the world somebody would rent a Lamborghini for the prices that he's renting it for, because of the maintenance and the tires and the brakes and all that good jazz. And then they're going to give it to a race car driver for a day. So it's going to be entertaining.
People do not rent those so that they can abide by the law.
Tim's
limits.
Tim's busting my balls already. He says it's going to rain all day in LA tomorrow. Tim, I don't think so. I'm going to the weather right now. It better not rain. Actually, but now I'm looking.
Hey,
it
Paul
says
Conrad.
sunny and 75. He's messing with me.
Paul Conrad, if you're watching.
It's
the weather forecast.
Tim, thanks for the scare there. I just looked at my weather app, and it says it's going to be sunny and 75. So if it rains, it just makes it easier to slip and slide the car, which will scare Matt.
Do a little Tokyo drift.
Yeah.
In a Lambo.
So that's tomorrow, and then I'm going to be gone for, obviously, Lawrence's wedding, and my shout-out to him this week, again, for getting married. His beautiful wife, Jen, is amazing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of our friends and family going, so I'm excited to scuba dive. I'm like the 21st wheel. I'm like the only single guy going. So I decided to learn how to scuba dive last week, and I think you know how to scuba dive, right? You're certified.
Taken lessons, yes.
So I did not realize this, and shout out to Barry's Dive Shop in Northfield because they were awesome. They took me in last minute. I called them. I said, hey, I want to get scuba certified. And they're like, it's like a 2-day course. And I said, I don't have 2 days. I have a day. And they said they'd give me private lessons on Saturday, but I had to get the coursework done, which is like the PADI certification online.
Sure.
That wasn't easy. I just flipped it open on my lap and thought, hey, I'll watch some TV, go through these questions, and then you have quizzes, and they're talking about pressure and density of water and, ATMs and this and that. And I'm like, holy shit, you really have to learn your crap. And paid attention, took most of the afternoon on Friday, did about 12 hours worth of like watching slides and taking tests, and went in and passed my closed water cert. And now I am ready to go diving in Tahiti.
Awesome. I know you got a whole bunch of equipment, GoPro stuff, and all the zoom lenses and whatever they might have. I look forward to seeing some of that. We'll show some of that when you get back.
I'm a accessory guy, obviously. Like, you know me already. You know that I'm like crazy about hobbies. So I got the GoPro with all the shit that you need to go diving. And then on Saturday, they actually told me, they're like, you might not use it your first trip because there's so much going on. If you've ever got scuba diving certified, you have the regulator, you got to watch your buoyancy. And it'll be the first time I'm, 60 feet underwater.
And
Apparently,
currents.
Currents.
Yeah.
In Tahiti, they have 15-foot tiger sharks. They got big lemon sharks. They got hammerhead sharks. And I've never been underwater, and I feel like I'm a pretty calm guy. But there's a lot going on, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold a GoPro my first time. So I may have wasted my GoPro money, but I did get a dive watch, which is probably also a waste for my first time.
Well, I'm sure, I don't know how many times you're going to be able to go. If you're going to be able to do, 2-3 dives.
2 days. So I'm doing 2 dives,
Okay.
2 days. The first day, they take you out in, I guess, 30-foot water,
Okay.
just to make sure you get open water certified. And the second
Yeah.
day, I'll do 2 full dives at 60 feet. I don't know how long you stay down, but I'll have 4 dives in 2 days.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, 4 dives and 2. So even if you're not going to necessarily use the GoPro the first time or two, maybe that last dive you'll get a little, once you kind of figure out what's what.
If I'm not eaten by the lemon sharks?
If you're not, yes. But hey, you're going to have your satellite phone.
I will.
So you can call people and tell them you're in trouble.
So I set it up last night, and it's not working. And I actually forgot to bring it because I wanted to try it outside, and I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. The satellite phone won't grab a signal, which is exactly what it's supposed to fucking do, is grab a good signal. But it last night it wouldn't grab a signal, so I charged it, and hopefully it works because I got that too.
Is there like a setup? I've never.
Yeah, I went online because they give you this little sheet of paper that doesn't really explain how to set it up. So like everything else, you can go to YouTube and YouTube, like, how do you set this satellite phone up?
Sure.
And people were going through the steps, and I went through the exact steps multiple times, and it just wouldn't triangulate any satellites. And I'm like, well, that sucks. So hopefully I can get it to work tonight, because I'm not going to be able to return it. But it's ridiculous looking. It's got this stupid antenna, and it looks like something out of like a 1980s cell phone shop, but it's supposed to work anywhere in the world. And I have an SOS button on top in case shit hits the fan and I need help.
Well, I don't know if you ever used to watch the show 24.
Yes, it was my favorite.
And Jack Bauer used to be able to get a signal. He could be
anywhere
in a cave with boulders on top of him on fire, and he'd be able to get a perfect signal and have somebody, an F-15 flying in 30 seconds. So
he had a perfect line into Chloe.
He did. Direct connect to Chloe. Shout out to Chloe.
I didn't know you were a 24 fan.
I am. I didn't watch it when it was on. I watched it. I guess it was Netflix. Yeah, I guess Netflix. And it was just one of those things. Started watching it. It's like one after another after another. Like, holy crap. Speaking of that, speaking of binge watching, there's a show that Maggie and I started watching last week, called The Haunting on Hill House, or The Hill House Haunting, something like that. So there's it's just one season, and there's 10 episodes, and we knocked out in 2 separate days. We knocked out 6 episodes. It was awesome. It just keeps getting creepier and creepier. And it's not action packed like 24, but it really leads you down this path, and it keeps getting darker and darker. It's pretty cool. So anybody that's out there looking for a binge watch suggestion, especially for when it gets really shitty out, I'll look it up. The Haunting on Hill House, or something along those lines. You'll be able to find it. It's really, really good.
It's like when you go on Netflix, it's like the first thing they recommend. And my buddy Matt Hill, shout out to Matt Hill, he watched it, and he on his Facebook had really good things to say about it.
Yeah.
He makes fun of the fact that he thinks I'm terrible at suggesting movies and shows. We have this Matt watches more movies than anybody, and he makes fun of my movie taste and my show taste a lot, but he always has movie recommendations and show recommendations, and he was saying the same thing on his Facebook.
Yeah.
Is it pretty scary? Or is it creepy?
It's creepy, and it's getting creepier.
Okay.
So that's the thing. I don't want to give a whole lot away, but I was expecting like gripping right away, boom. And it's not. It kind of leads you in, and it's a time flip thing. So it's about a family in current day and how they are now, but because of what happened to them when the kids were all small in this particular house, and some crazy shit went down, and it's showing some of the effects. That's really all I'm going to say about it. It's cool.
Is it based on a true story?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
I started watching the second season of Making a Murderer, but I've just been slow to watch because I've been so busy this last couple of weeks. Did you see the first season of that?
We watched some of it. It didn't grab me the way I thought it was going to.
I mean, I was hooked on it, and just because it was kind of cool, and the legal background for me, just watching the process of how I thought he was. I think, and I'm pretty sure he's guilty, and he killed that woman. But I think, given the burden of proof in law, he should have been found not guilty. So that's always the big thing with law is, in a criminal case, for those that don't know, you have to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That means like 99.999999% guilty. If you find 1% doubt in your head that this person could not be guilty, you have to find him not guilty. That's the burden in criminal. In civil, it's by the preponderance of the evidence. So 50.1, you win. But criminal, because you essentially put somebody away in jail, you better be really damn sure. And I think the defense had done a good enough job to give any reasonable doubt that this guy hadn't done it. So I think he should have been found not guilty. Although obviously the show was built with a bias on one side.
Sure.
When you go back, and I did this, I went and I Googled a lot of the transcripts from Q&As and him being questioned and depositions and stuff. And you can tell the guy is guilty for sure. I mean, he called that woman like 15 times that day like a psycho, and is a guy who used to like kill animals when he was younger, like kill cats and throw them in fires. The guy's fucked up.
Yeah.
But he should have been found not guilty. So there's a woman out of Chicago, actually. She might be a good person to try to get on the show, although I just said that I think he's guilty, so she might not want to come on the show.
Well, it could be a good debate.
But she is taking on his appeal.
Oh.
So she's going to try to get him out. And that's the like premise of this second season. And she's apparently had a ridiculous win record on getting people's guilty verdicts overturned. And it's almost like she won't take a case unless she thinks that the person's not guilty.
Sure.
So it's interesting. She's out of Chicago.
Know.
She took this case. Northwestern did a big study on it, and we'll see what happens.
Huh. We were also, speaking of law and creepy, we were driving from Naperville into the city last night, and Sunday nights on the Eisenhower coming in, it was packed. Everybody that was away for a weekend wants to get back in the city. So anyways, we've been trying, Maggie and I have been trying to listen to a lot more podcasts.
Yeah. Just
different stuff, educational, historical. And she wanted something kind of creepy. It was raining crappy out last night, so we turned on, it's called the No Sleep podcast. And it's a story, we only got about 40 minutes into it, and we'll listen to the rest. But the story that was being told, it was good, and there were two actresses that were telling the story. But about like 5 minutes into it, they started talking about Elgin and Elmhurst and 9094. It's like, wow, this all. So I don't know if the author is from Chicago and that's why they used that, or if it was actually a true story that they were, or based on a true story. So that's actually, I'm going to go back kind of like you did and look and see if there was, get some facts, if there are actual facts, because it was really intriguing. Your whatever hometown you might be in.
Yeah.
If you're listening to something or watching something and all of a sudden you see something that looks familiar or they make reference to, all of a sudden you just kind of perk up a little bit more and we're both like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So just a little tidbit of info. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm like you guys now. I mean, I guess because we have a podcast, Nudcast, I try to listen in. I try to listen in more just to get, just become better at what we're doing, but also interested in hearing how other people are conducting their shows and what they talk about. There's so much material now. But yeah, I'm kind of hooked on it. And for those of you listening, John and I are actually going to be uploading a lot of our episodes shortly here to iTunes and stuff, so you guys can actually listen in on us and the actual audio portion of our shows, just in case you're not the type of people who are watching our shows. But
so I'm going to put myself on camera here for a second, and I'm going to make a vow.
Oh.
A promise, whatever you want to call it. A vow is kind of silly. Promise, we'll go with.
Yeah, don't make a vow on air. We don't have enough viewers today.
Especially with you going to a wedding. I don't want, that's
You're still trying to come as my date, huh?
I still am. But what I've decided was with you leaving tomorrow, and you'll be gone for a week and change, by the time we come back 16 days from now, I promise you we'll have all the stuff on iTunes.
That'll be cool.
I'm putting that out there now so I can be held accountable, because we have to hold each other accountable.
We do. I owe John $50 for an accountability bet.
Yes, he does. And I am also going to make you another promise. If that's not paid today, by the time you ain't skipping town, if it's not paid today, there's going to be a
interest deduction.
There's going to be something on Facebook saying, "Hey, Mo ran out of town all the way to Tahiti,
and he's never coming back." Well, you got to send me your Chase Quick Pay or something so I can quick pay you.
Cash, baby, cash.
I got no cash on me. I got to go to the bank and get some for Tahiti.
I'll follow you.
Are we allowed to announce our guest 2 Wednesdays from now? I don't know if we can. I guess I could describe who our guest might be, but not announce.
So here's what I did this morning. I don't know if you saw it because I CC'd you on it. All right. So I sent something to his people and said, hey, you know what? We're going to be announcing some stuff. I knew I was going to say this about the iTunes. I was going to make that foul. But I said to him, you know, can we go ahead and announce it? Because it's kind of I think it's kind of a big deal.
Huge deal.
Yeah. We haven't heard back.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean no. And it's, you know,
I mean,
we're going to
say his name out of respect because obviously he is extremely important. Yeah. But 2 Wednesdays from now, so not this Wednesday, not the following one. It would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Yeah. We are slated right now to have a guest who is a local politician, an influencer, a guy that I'm very interested in talking to. Mm-hmm. He's a hero. He is a hero. So I'm very, very interested to chat with this guy. And I think all of you will be very interested to ask him some questions. I might have to field some of them, but I'm really psyched to have him on the show. If he makes it, it'll be, no offense to our past guests. I mean, we've had amazing guests, definitely the most high profile guest that we've ever had. Yes. And a guy, again, when you read about him, you admire how much he's done in his career. So very, very excited and very hopeful he will be on the show with us. I have, from the moment that this became a thought, I've been very, very excited, and the hamster wheel's been spinning about talking to him. I know John's been working really hard on getting this to happen. It's John's doing that this might happen, not my doing at all, but I am very excited that if it does happen, I get to talk to him.
So, you know, when we got into this, you and I got into this, we both have different things that we're good at. You're great in front of the camera. I'm more comfortable behind the scenes, even though I'm on camera a lot today. But as far as reaching out to him, and I'll give Ryan Cotter a shout out on that because he went to an event and kind of connected us, and then I just picked up the ball and ran with it. But I should be able to say why this guy is so important or could be so important. No?
Well, he's running for Chicago politics coming up soon here.
Okay, we'll go with
that. We'll leave it at that.
We'll go with that. So,
shout out to Cotter, by the way, because next Thursday is their LA Real Estate Rumble. It's coming up fast, and we're not going to be on air before he does this. And shout out to him. Shout out to Elbron, who's boxing in it. Hopefully he's been training. I mean, I've seen Elbron a couple times in the last month. Doesn't look like he's training. He's partying more than he's training, so hopefully he's training a little bit. Elbron, if you're watching, you know, he watches the show. Throw a jab or something. But Cotter and them are going out to L.A. I'm really bummed I can't be there for it because my plan was actually to be in L.A., but we do have the Casino Royale, which is a Chicago Association of Realtors event that same night, and I'm on the board, so I definitely can't miss that. Sorry to Cotter and the guys for me not being able to be there, but kudos to them for running another event out in L.A. I know it's going to be bigger and badder this time than last year. I've seen some of the fight announcements. It's going to be really cool. They're raising a ton of money for Big Brothers Big Sisters, who's a charity that we obviously hold near and dear to us. And it's not an easy undertaking to do that event here in Chicago. And it's a crazy undertaking for those guys to get up, leave Chicago, go to a totally different market, and then run that event there. So shout out to Greg, Ryan, Elbron, and everybody else doing the LA Real Estate Rumble.
Absolutely. I hope they amaze themselves and everybody out there just with how awesome it is and how much money they raise. And they're doing a good thing, and they're doing their best, and just it builds slowly, kind of like this thing.
Yeah.
Just build slowly.
Building steam. You know, what's crazy about this thing is more and more people are reaching out to me and saying, you know, they've been watching old episodes and they started following Wheelhouse. So thank you to everybody who does watch. Thank you everybody that shares. It means a lot to us. It's my favorite thing that I'm doing recently. And we just want to keep putting on good content, getting you guys better guests, or more good guests, not
better, but good.
Our guests till now have been amazing, but just keep bettering ourselves and then having great conversation with local influencers, business people, entrepreneurs, everything we can. John's going to an event tonight. I'll let him do that shout out before we get into some tips and tricks and answer some questions. Because
absolutely,
I went on Facebook last night and said, hey, listen, if anybody has some questions, let us know. And I know a couple people texted me. A couple people put down a couple questions that I think they were joking about, but I'll touch on anyways because I can't tell if they were being serious or not. But before I get into that, let people know where you're going tonight and what you're up to.
So last week, we had a gentleman named Ryan Marks on the show, and he is the owner of the VIG Chicago, which is in Old Town, about the 1500 block of North Wells. Anybody familiar with Chicago knows Old Town. They're having an event. Excuse me. They're having an event. Going to try that one more time. They're having an event. It's called Herd, and it's a fundraiser to bring awareness to mental health issues in the restaurant and service industry, as well as other industries. But the story that we got from Ryan last week was that his sous chef and events coordinator came to him. I believe it was the sous chef who came to him first and said that he wanted to do an event to help raise funds to better the awareness of the mental health challenges in our society. And with them being in that business, the restaurant bar business, really wanted to focus on that. So I know that you and I've got the vigchicago.com up on the screen right now. That's their website address. And if you go to that, there's a tab at the top on their homepage, and it says Herd. That's the tab. There's a bunch of tabs, but the Herd tab, you can click on that for tickets and info. And if you use the promo code WheelHouse, it'll save you $30 off the price of a ticket admission. And you can use that $30 when you're there. It's not, I mean, you could pocket it or you could donate it or do whatever you want, but it's available for those of you that want to go and save a couple bucks and tip the bartenders better, or tip the servers or whatever. But as you and I found out last week, the word herd is a way that they, in the kitchen, I guess, at a busy restaurant, if one person asks another person for something, rather than them saying, okay, I'll get it to you in a minute, da-da-da-da, they just say heard, so the questioner, the asker, knows that they've been heard, and they'll get whatever they're requesting momentarily. And so they took that as the name of the fundraiser, because the messaging of the fundraiser tonight really does need to be heard. And it's an important issue. I, thank God, don't really have anybody that has really gone down that dark road in my life. But I know that there are people, it's like, 2 degrees of separation. I know a lot of people who have been affected by people who have had mental illness in their family or close friends or whatever. And it's an important situation. So I'm going to put that up, the website address and the promo code through the course of this. But that's tonight. It starts, I believe, at 6. You might want to check that on the website. It's either 6 or 7. Doors open, and it goes pretty much all night, I believe. They're closing down the whole joint. So if you're available and want to help and support, come on out, have some cocktails, have some food. The menu's supposed to be fantastic. I'll be there just hanging out, doing what I can for them. And that's it.
I'm bummed I can't be there. Obviously, I'm flying out early tomorrow morning and have a lot to do. And I told you I sprung a pretty bad leak in my house yesterday, this house from hell that I bought. Yeah, shout out to Ryan. Shout out to his staff. I mean, shout out to Ryan for taking something that was presented to him and turning it into such an incredible event. And like John had mentioned, it really is a worldwide problem. And it's a problem that I don't think enough people have focused in on in the restaurant and hospitality business. And Ryan's kind of pushing that front and helping bring awareness. When I was looking into the show last week, and I always do a little bit of research into our topics before we talk about them, the staggering fact that just in the U.S. alone, 121 people a day commit suicide. Sure. I read that and I thought about it, and you look at the U.S. and it's such a small portion of the entire world, and you would think that in the United States, at least this is me just taking a guesstimate, that number is probably lower than other places in the world where people don't have access to all the great things that we do in our country. So expand that across the entire globe, that number is stupid staggering.
Yep.
And not enough is being done to bring awareness to it. And kudos to Ryan and those guys for doing that tonight. So if you can go to his event tonight, please go. If you can't go, definitely check out everything they're doing. I'm sure Ryan and everybody else is going to continue forward with awareness on this topic. So
absolutely.
Definitely check in. Take a lot of pictures. Let me know how it goes. I might
do a
bummed.
quick live stream. Yeah.
Cool. I'm bummed I can't be there, but you'll be my stand-in. My stand-in there.
I'll
tonight.
represent us both.
Yeah. Awesome. Have fun.
Thank you.
I'll be dealing with plumbers and packing while you're having
I'll be
drinks.
dealing with liquid.
Yeah.
On the rocks.
So we did one of these Q&As, and there was a couple questions that popped up. We did one of these a little while back. We're doing a Q&A, obviously, today. But a couple of things I wanted to touch on before I get to people's questions. This is the time of year where I do this in my office, or I start doing it in my office. And I think it's impactful to business owners. And a lot of times we're questioning other entrepreneurs, and I like to think of myself as one who does a ton of different things, so I have to manage myself and break my goals down really well. Otherwise, everything gets away from me. I also have good accountability partners in everything I do, like you keeping me accountable here at WheelHouse. But years ago, and I'm sure most of you have read this, I read, write down your goals and you're going to be more likely to be successful. Simple, easy to understand. So I started writing down my goals. And I found that maybe I kept track of my goals better than I had in the past, but I wasn't becoming any more successful than I was in the past. I would write down my yearly goals, and I would get to June or July, and I would be behind. And I'd say, well, what the fuck? I wrote down my goals, and then I read a great ebook by this guy. I believe his name's Alex Murr. He's very popular on Instagram, and it's one of my favorite quick ebooks. It's 10, 15 pages long, and he talks about writing down goals, and he talks about making your goals visible. He wrote himself $1 million check, and he said that he's going to and he put a date on it, and he kept it up in his dresser, and every day this $1 million check stared at him, and I guess he cashed it a year early. He cashed his check a year early, nice. And he talked about making your goals visible. So I started then making my goals visible. So like a crazy person, I would write down my goals. I had them on a whiteboard, and I kept them where I could always see them. And I think they, again, were in my head, and I was reminded of these goals more and more. But still, I failed year over year on hitting the goals I wanted. And I was building big goals and working really hard, and it wasn't that I wasn't successful. I just would fall short. Then I started to think about, what do I have to do so that I don't get to June or July and fuck my goals up, or figure out I'm behind and now how do I catch up? So I started to break my goals down into, what do I have to do every single week to win a week? So my goals went from annual goals to weekly goals, and I would break them down. And I use this example all the time because it's easy to understand for everybody. If I told you guys I had to lose 50 pounds this year, you guys would say, wow, 50 pounds is a lot of weight. You take somebody who needs to lose some weight, they got to lose 50 pounds in a year. They set that goal in January. They go to the gym. They're motivated. You'd be like, wow, 50 pounds, good for you. It's a lot of weight. If I told you I had to lose 1 pound this week, you would laugh at me and say, don't eat Chipotle, dumbass, and you'll lose a pound. A pound a week for 52 weeks is 52 pounds. What most people don't understand is a scary goal, when broken down into what you have to do week in and week out, is not that scary. And I, in my office, coach it as winning the week. So if you win enough weeks in the year, you will win your yearly goal. And I implore you, no matter what your goal is in whatever business it is, whatever, if it's fitness, business, life, take whatever your goal is, break it down on what you have to do every single week, hit that and win. Now in real estate, I tell people you can break down your leads into how many leads you need every single week to hit your annual goals. And this is an offer I'll make to any realtor listening, whether you're at Main Street or not. Main Street agents get this. But if you're not with Main Street, no pressure. You don't have to come to Main Street. I'm going to offer this up in a little bit online too. Sit down with me. I'm not going to charge anything. 1 hour. I will break down literally exactly what you need in every single week to hit your annual goals if you're a realtor. I've broken this down. I've done a lot of research. I wrote a business plan for my realtors last year. I can tell you if you want to sell 10 million, 12 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, 2 million, whatever you want to sell in real estate, I can tell you what you have to do every single week to hit that goal. And it's a free offer to anybody who's a realtor, whether you're with Main Street or not. You don't have to come to Main Street. I'm happy to do that for anybody. So goal without a plan is just a wish. Plan for your goals and break your goals down. It's my goal advice.
Very nice. Very good.
Actually, Jim, who's James, said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yep.
He's right. Absolutely. How do you eat a Chipotle burrito? One bite at a time.
I know that there's, as far as the goals and everything, just using the fitness as an example, the fitness field as an example. January and February, you go into a gym and it's absolutely packed, and it's packed with these people who are working out trying to just drop 5-10 pounds a week, but they're not used to the regiment, and they don't see that immediate loss and that immediate strength. And I usually figure, okay, Jan 1 through not even St. Patrick's Day, it's just most people will bust through and make sure that they get through Valentine's Day, because they'll set that, it's a 6-week goal and da-da-da-da. But you're right. You're absolutely right. If you can just take that goal and break it down into something you think, well, yeah, that's doable, that's manageable. And even if you don't necessarily achieve that goal 100% for that week, the goal isn't so big that it's all of a sudden it's a mountain. Okay, 1 pound a week, I lost 3/4 of a pound. So
next week, 1 1/4.
Yeah, it's a little extra on the treadmill or whatever it might be, but that's all. It's a great way to approach life.
You're absolutely right. So I tell agents, if you don't, let's say 2 leads a week is your lead goal, and you hit 1, well, next week you got to do 3, but it's not like you got to do 100. And you actually bump and set this for me. And John didn't know my lineup of my motivational tips today, but my next one was a chat on motivation, and I was going to talk about people who start off the year very motivated and then it kind of falls apart. I think you hit the nail on the head with one part of what you said, where people want to all of a sudden lose 5-10 pounds in a couple weeks. And it's because I feel like people look at somebody with some level of success. Let's take fitness again. You see somebody and you're like, I want to look like that person. That person took years to look like that, and you want to do it quickly, and you want that instant gratification. So you're very, very motivated, and when you don't get it, that motivation just kind of takes a dump. It's consistency that wins. And people, like in business too, a lot of people will say, hey, I want to be, a top producer, my first year, or I want to be, Matt Laracy, or I want to be Jeff Lowe the first year, or some people will say, I want to outsell you, my first year. And good, keep that goal, but be realistic about it so that it doesn't get you down when you don't get there, because it's not realistic to be there. But also with motivation, people always, poo-poo those people who try to lose 5-10 pounds right away. And I say, don't feel bad about being that person who's amped up in January to go. Sure. Motivation, I wrote an article that Chicago Agent Magazine thankfully featured, and I talked about motivation. I say, motivation is like an energy bar in a video game. If you've ever played video games, I don't play them anymore, but when you were a kid, I'm sure you did, and you played like a Mortal Kombat game or something, and the thing's got a full energy bar in it. Your character moves really fast. As that energy bar starts to drop, it slows you down. Motivation's not an endless supply, but when you have it, run with it. When it starts to drop, fall back on systems and consistency. Fall back on the, hey, I know that every day I'm going to go to the gym at this time. Fall back on the, if you're a business owner, every day these are the things I'm going to do for lead generation. I'm never going to skip a beat. Because when your motivation drops, you will for sure operate at a much lower level. But if you have systems in place that force you to do certain things, so what? You're at least grinding through those times and your motivation will come back. You know, it goes down, it goes back up, it goes down, it goes back up. Nobody forever. I mean, you could look at Elon Musk right now. He's a perfect example of this. People are like, you know, he's kind of burnt out. Elon Musk is maybe one of the most brilliant minds of our generation and every generation before us. But the guy doesn't have endless motivation. He burns out like everybody else sometime. And every single successful entrepreneur has burnout periods. I have them all the time. But when I burn out, I don't quit. That, I think, is the differentiator between somebody who is going to make it and somebody who doesn't, is when someone burns out and quits, well, you just stop your success. Somebody else who burns out a little bit, but they have systems in place to kind of push them through to the next motivational push, I think that really is a differentiator between people who make it and people who don't. Yeah, I'm sure you run with times where you're like, shit, like I'm not motivated today.
Absolutely.
But you said it the other day, going back to the gym, you said, I think you said it last week when we were talking about this, no matter what, you still get in there, even if you feel like shit, because you know that you have to do it.
Right. That's why I set days, because using the gym, you're having a bad day, you know, whether it's the weather's kind of ick and you're not feeling it, and you think, I'll go tomorrow. And then maybe the weather's ick again, and you know, some of your friends call you and say, hey, we're going to go out, and that sounds a lot more fun. I'll go tomorrow. And then all of a sudden it turns into next week. And whether it's business or whatever, just like you got done saying, you know, if you have certain things that you have to do on particular days, that's what we're doing right now with the social media thing. And it's just so that way on gym days that aren't go to gym days, I don't feel guilty. I'm giving myself time to rest, you know, recharge, and get back in there the next day. And whether it's business or gym or whatever, you know, there's going to be times you're going to go in and you're going to kind of do it, not half-assed, not like you're sloughing, but you just don't have the energy. But you do what you can, and you make sure that you work up a sweat and get your heart rate up and say, okay, you know what, I accomplished something. And then there's going to be other days where you just go in and kill it. I do think that people can be too hard on themselves, so that every time you go to the gym, if you don't kill it, well, yeah, I went, but it kind of sucked. That was terrible. No, because you're still doing more than 90% of the people out there. Because I can melt into a couch with the best of them. I mean, you know, especially when winter's on with winter on the horizon, it gets you know, cold, and it's more difficult to go. But just stick to those particular days, do a little bit. And then, you know, pat yourself on the back a little bit. Don't get comfortable with not doing a ton, but applaud yourself for doing more than others do.
People are too hard on themselves now, you know, and I think social media has made that tougher for people, because you get, you know, you log into Instagram, for example, and your home screen is what people are liking and not liking, and you're a girl and you see all these fitness models that, you know, look like supermodels, and you think tomorrow you got to look like them.
Right.
You don't. Guys, same thing. You know, I'm guilty of it. I look at a lot of car stuff, and, you know, I'm a pretty ambitious guy. I'm an ambitious entrepreneur, AE, WheelHouse. And I find myself sometimes like telling myself, like, be happy with what you have. You know, there's people who are always going to be more successful than you, unless you are Elon Musk, Bill Gates, you know, Bezos. But there's levels to it. Be happy with where you're at now. There's a great quote, and it says, you know, look at, be happy where you, I don't know how it goes, but like, look at 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you'd be so happy to see where you are right now. Yeah. You know, when I look at 10 years ago, I was finishing up law school, and I would have probably never thought, I had ambitions of being where I'm at, but would have never thought to be here, and I should be very happy. So be happy in the moment. But I think social media, because it constantly highlights the best of the best at everything, it forces people not to realize, like, you are, you know, Evan Shai, our past guest, says it best. He goes, be 1% better every day. You know, you don't have to be 100% better every day. Just better yourself a little bit every day. And that compounding effect is going to have, you know, incredible effect as time goes on in life. So just better yourself a bit every day. You don't have to catch Bill Gates tomorrow. You don't have to catch the top producer. You don't have to catch those people in a day or two. It's Jeff Lowe, actually, one of the he is the top producing realtor in Chicago many years running. We had a breakfast, YPN breakfast with him, and he said, you know, I've just been the most consistent guy, and I've been doing it for 2 decades. You know, and there's people in that room who are like, I want to be him, but they've been realtors for 2 months. It's like, you can be him, but you better be as consistent as that man is for 20 years to be able to get there. And I feel like people need to just be happy making progress, forward movement. So
I agree.
I love that.
There's a lot on social media, and there are things that we follow, I'll follow, you follow, we as a Wheelhouse follow. And it's all the, you know, the fit people and the awesome cars and da-da-da-da. And there's a fine line between reality and pushing yourself towards a reality-based goal and then looking at all this stuff and feeling bad. It's like, well, you know, you want motivation. That's what I guess the fine lines between being motivating and being sort of depressing. It's like you gotta understand that all these things, you know, are perfect lighting and perfect this and perfect that. And who knows? A lot of the people in those pictures, those, you know,
they don't look like that.
No, not. They don't jump in their Lambo and drive off with the perfect woman to the coast. It's a shoot.
You know, Saturday I went with a good friend of mine to look at some cars because he was looking to buy a pretty cool Shelby Eleanor, and I think he's still thinking about it. But I went and checked out my good friends. Shout out to them at Chicago Motor Cars, Perrin and Phil. They're good buddies of mine. And so if you've ever been to Chicago Motor Cars, you walk in and it's Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren, Porsche. And it's like a toy store. It's crazy. You go in there and it's awesome. And they've been great. I bought a bunch of cars from those guys. And I walked in there and I was like, man, I want that. I want that. And it motivated me. And I think I've been doing a lot of work on being happy. And Lawrence, who's getting married, we do a lot of talking, him and I, on like kind of the idea of happiness. And I walked out of there motivated that I want one, but not unhappy with the fact that I don't have one. And I think that's taken a lot of work for me. It's taken a lot of self-work to know that be happy with where you're at, keep doing forward progress, and you'll be there eventually. You know, so shout out to those guys. But yeah, you want a dose of car motivation? Stop by Chicago Motor Cars in West Chicago and take a peek at some of the cool stuff they have.
Well, you know, if we had them as a sponsor, we could be showing off all of their cars as you're talking about it. So you might want to have that conversation. Buy a Lambo, we'll save you $50.
You know, it's put in the promo code WheelHouse, and your $500,000 car will be $499,950. Every little bit does help when you're spending $500,000.
Yep.
The other thing, and I'm going to touch on a question, and I'll touch on the last thing I wanted to give advice on. Somebody had made a comment, what do I do once I have a business plan? And I think he may have been kidding, but he might be half serious. For Andy. This is a question that actually pops up a lot. I've had a couple people come to me who are trying to transition from a real estate company to us, or I've had a couple people say, hey, I want to open a real estate company and I have a business plan. And I've had a couple people say, I want to do my own law firm. I've been in a law firm and I hate working at law firms. I want to do my own thing. What do I do once I have a business plan? So this question's popped up for me a bunch of times. And I'm notorious for, I've had people who want to open real estate offices, law offices. I'll sit down with them and give them my entire blueprint because I think there's enough to go around. I'm of the mindset that I'm an open book. Nothing I have I will ever hide as far as knowledge is concerned. That's why we're doing Wheelhouse. We don't want entrepreneurs hiding knowledge. We want them to share advice with other people. It's the idea of giver's gain. A business plan is great, but honestly, my first 2 businesses, I never had a business plan. I knew what I wanted to do, and I think the reason that I got relatively successful at them was I was a doer. You know, a lot of people will have thoughts in their head where, hey, like, I want to do this, and they'll put thoughts to paper, and then the next step of actually doing scares the living shit out of them. Mm-hmm. That leap from the idea to actually implementing that idea, I think, is what probably cuts out 70% of entrepreneurs. I'm just throwing a random percentage out there. But I imagine a lot of people have great ideas and they have great thoughts of what they want to do. And I was listening to a clip with Gary Vee too, and he had the same similar idea. And he said, where I think a lot of great ideas die is where people don't implement the action to create them and or to actually complete them because they're afraid. And I always tell people, make it, you know, if you have a business and if you have a family and you don't want to lose that income job that you have and you don't want to lose a safety net. That's fine. I can totally relate to that. Start doing whatever you want to do on the side. And if you fail, so what? Go back to, doing what you were doing. And even if you quit doing what you were doing, as long as you have a skill set in what you were doing and you go out and you do this new thing and it fails, so what? You're not going to not find a job. Right. It might suck for a while, but nobody who's become successful has not failed. If you are not failing, you're not trying hard enough to be successful. And if you have a business plan, take it to somebody who's had a successful business and let them give you their honest evaluation on it. Right. I call my dad all the time. He's got an MBA. He's the guy I look up to as an entrepreneur, and he's a guy that I bounce all my ideas off of. I can't tell you how many times I've given my dad an idea and he rips it to shreds, and in a good way. Mm-hmm. But I needed that. Even as somebody who had good businesses, he rips my stuff apart sometimes. And then when I take him something that he's like, oh, that could be good, and gives constructive advice, go to somebody you trust and say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Give me some advice. Mm-hmm. Once you've got that advice and you've kind of evolved your thoughts, just go with it. And you and I we could maybe shout this out. It's going to happen pretty soon. We're going to be doing a little bit of a different show. That's going to be a different venture for John and I. We're going to have, I guess I could say this too. We're going to have, no, I can't say it. Can't say that much more about it, but we have something coming. It's in the works. John's shaking his head. Don't say anything. But it's in the works. And we had a meeting and we just said, we're going to run with it and it's going to evolve itself, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what people want. My tech startup's the same way. We ran with it. It wasn't what we thought it would be. It was a little more struggle, and now we evolved it, and it's working. So if you have a business plan and you want to take that business plan and turn it into a business, you have to go and do that. You have to implement the action that creates the business, and then from there, it might go in a million different ways. And it's that whole idea of as an entrepreneur, you're jumping off of a cliff and you're jumping out of a plane and you're building a parachute on the way down. Yeah. It's true. Yep. You got to jump and then figure all the rest of the shit on the way down, and hopefully you figure it out before you crash. And if you crash, who cares? It's not like real life. You're not going to die. You're just going to have to hit the reset button. I've had failed businesses. It is what it is.
I have too. And putting something into action, jumping out of the plane, so to speak, that's how you find out. You don't know what you don't know until you do something, and that allows things to present themselves and be like, oh, I never thought, I didn't consider this, I didn't consider that. There's been a lot, even just using this as an example. There's a ton of stuff that going into this I didn't think was, at first, there was a lot, I've learned a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And it's, podcasts are very, very popular, and we're trying to really do something that, you did a lot of radio prior to coming on here, and we're awesome at it. I've done a lot of production work, but not in a studio setting. So we took our talents, put them together, threw around some ideas. But these last, 26 months, let's say, there's been a lot of different things. Like, whoa, all right, what about this? What about that? Even just the look and feel and the cadence of the show and so on. You just don't think about that stuff until you get in the Shark Tank, so to speak, and start swimming. It's like, holy crap, all right, we got to do this, we got to do that, da-da-da-da. So,
we get 1% better every show. It probably 10% better every show. But it's like anything else. Like you said, you don't know what you don't know, and you're going to learn a lot. And that's why I go back to go to somebody who may be able to give you constructive advice. And if you can go to somebody in the business that you're trying to start and sit down with them and get their input, that is going to be really valuable. I sat down with a gentleman who's looking to open his own real estate company. And I literally said, hey, this is what I wouldn't do if I did it again. Mm-hmm. I did the real estate company at Main Street out of a little bit of a necessity. The situation forced me to do it fast. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the ability to sit down and just data compile. I mean, it was like, we got to get it done. It's going to get done. I drove my application to Springfield with Jeff. It got done. Mm-hmm. But I don't want people to make the same mistakes I made. So I'm happy to sit down with people and say, don't do these things, do these things that might work better than what I did, and hopefully you'll get successful faster than I do. But find somebody who's willing to sit down with you and talk to you about that stuff that's the path of least resistance. Get data compile a little bit, meet with some people, let them,
Right.
I've had people sit down with me and say, I want to do this with my law firm. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work because of the experiences that I've had. And I've probably saved them a fair amount of money and headaches by telling them, don't advertise there. Don't do this. If you're a real estate agent, maybe Zillow's not a great idea for the first time person, go to Realtor, do this, whatever it may be, sit down with somebody who knows what they're doing.
So with that being said, I agree wholeheartedly with you. But also, I'm going to take this opportunity, and I will post this. The whole show will be posted, but I'm going to post this segment. So for people that are out there who are watching for the first time or are on again, off again, or we've got a lot of people who watch every single week, thank you so much. We would love to hear from you what we can do to make the show better. Now, I know we did we got a strong suggestion about iTunes last week, and that's when I decided, you know what? I didn't want to hear it necessarily the way it was presented, but I thought the person is right, and we're going to take this little bit of a break, and in that break, I'm going to make sure that I can help move this forward by doing that. So with that all being said, that was long-winded, but people that are out there, especially people who watch on a regular basis, tell us what we can do. Naturally, get world-known guests, get Elon Musk on her. But I mean, realistic things that we can do because we do want to make it better, but we want to make it better for you to have you look forward to WheelHouse on a regular basis. Tune in, ask questions, present different ideas, and so on and so forth. What can we do to make WheelHouse better? Because that's our goal.
Don't say change the host. Not happening.
But no, that's, we enjoy coming in and doing this. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. And we've been really lucky with the number of guests and with great stories to tell who have come in and sat here and in these chairs and told us their stories and offered advice, some great advice to aspiring entrepreneurs. But we want to hear from the audience members. Please tell us what we can do to make it better. If there's ideas, suggestions, whether it's, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I don't know. So,
I love that. Give us suggestions. Tell us what we can do to make this better. I agree. The iTunes one, was positioned great, but it's true. I mean, we have to do it. It's I love people that will just tell you how it is, and it was told how it was, and I agree. We need it, and give us guest suggestions too, going off of what you just said. If you know somebody who you think is influential, who could teach something to people, who you think would be great from the show, or who would benefit from the exposure of being on the show, let us know. We'd love to talk to them. We are always John mostly has done an incredible job of being on the lookout for great influential guests. And if you guys know great guests, give us a shout out. We'd love to talk to them. We'd love to get them on WheelHouse. And Maggie asked, what is one thing you've both learned during the show? Ooh, I've learned a lot of things during the show. I guess I'll go first. Okay. Obviously John and I work really well together. You got to you got to learn to have synergy with somebody. And I think we learned each other's synergy probably after a couple weeks. I've also learned, I guess touching on radio, doing this sort of thing, I've learned a lot from our guests. So setting that aside, I every week, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I learn something from the people we have on the shows. Yeah, they motivate me, they inspire me, and I learn a lot from them. So I've learned a lot from the guests. So I won't say one thing because there's millions of them. But from the Running a Netcast podcast, I think, like you said, John, there's a lot of content out there. And when I was on radio, I had a very specific topic every week I had to talk about, and there's nothing wrong about that. It was a very different mindset. We're teaching people stuff on that show about a specific subject, and it was real estate, something I knew a lot about. What I've learned on this show is to be able to give people a platform to give their opinions and, teach people stuff without constantly having to interject my opinion, because this show is not about me giving my opinion. Today's show is a little bit about me giving some opinions because it's just me and you. Right. But being able to facilitate conversations and just almost moderate a good conversation for me took a little bit of getting used to. You watch Joe Rogan do it, and I watch Joe a lot. I probably watch him and Ariel Helwani a lot. Tim Ferriss I listened to a little bit, but I love listening to his show, but I don't listen to it as much to get better at what I'm doing. But I watch Joe be able to let people tell their story and play off of them, and I think I've learned to do that much, much better in the last 26 or 7 weeks.
Right. Absolutely.
So for me, that was a big learning experience.
Very good. Okay. My turn, I guess.
Yeah. She put you on the spot, Maggie. Good job.
Thanks, Mags. So going back to the synergy, like you were discussing, in 2003, real quick backstory, I worked in the nightclub industry for a long time. And
he was a go-go dancer.
I was a go-go dancer who worked my way up to being a good dancer. So I
call that a stripper.
I was trying to avoid that. So I worked in the nightclub industry, and I started out in the burbs. Wound up running one of the biggest joints in the city. I was on a management team. It wasn't just me. And then I wound up over on Rush Street. Met a lot of great people. But somewhere along the line, I woke up one morning, figuratively speaking, and thought, I'm getting a little too old for this. I don't want to be out all the time till 3, 4 in the morning. It's fun for a while, but so took the knowledge, took my contacts through special event marketing and such that I made, and opened a business in 2003. We're in 2018 now, and it's still running. Still producing commercials, writing content, doing billboard work. So for all you companies out there, but I did a lot of that on my own somebody said it. I forget who it was that said it, but I love the term solopreneur. And what they said was, an entrepreneur who's a solopreneur really limits himself or herself in what they can achieve. And what I've really learned is working as a team with you over the last 6 months. Now, I know that you work with a lot of people on a regular basis at your other office, but coming in here and we'll go out for lunch and we'll have conversations and bounce ideas and who's going to be responsible for what and holding each other accountable and so on and so forth. And I've learned a lot about teamwork in the professional setting. You're good at what you're good at. I'm good at what I'm good at. But how can we take it and complement those talents and do the best that we can so that we put out good quality content? And it's taken, there are times where we don't necessarily see eye to eye. We don't butt heads, but, taking in of ideas and processing, and even as I made mention, the iTunes thing last week, sometimes can be a little defensive. And so when it was first presented, and it wasn't, I don't want to overdo it, it wasn't like a big bad thing. It was just sort of surprising. But then once I processed it, it's like, okay, and I think I've learned that from doing this with you, just that, well, what about this and what about that? Look at it from this angle, look at it from that angle. And I know you coach a lot, and I think it's cool that you're coaching me at times without even realizing it, because I take stuff and I'll process it, and probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I wouldn't have done that. So that's been a learning, consciously or subconsciously or a little bit of both, that this has really brought, this whole process has brought to me, and I hope to continue.
I love that, and I've had a blast working with you. I said this is one of my favorite things to do in my life right now is this Netcast podcast. So hopefully it grows. Mm-hmm. But I agree. What I realized, I was like you too. And we'll go back to that iTunes thing. It wasn't that bad, but
no.
The person who presented it to you does that to me all the time, and in like tough love fashion. But knowing that. And a couple people do it. My dad does it to me all the time. A lot of tough love, like, do this, do that. You shouldn't do this. And I realized that people who care about you doing better typically are very honest about their expectations and what they think you should do to better yourself. And a lot of times I used to not be good at taking that advice. And then I realized, you know what? These are the people who probably care for me more than the people who just don't. They don't even care to give that sort of input, like a lot of people just don't give a shit. Right. And then you have a certain amount of people who can literally be very honest with you because they see something that they think is going to better your situation. And I have a handful of people in my life that are like that, and it's been awesome. So I'm excited to keep doing this and growing. It's crazy. We said we're going to do this for a half hour. I think we're over an hour, just me and you just chatting.
It just flew.
Yeah. So great question, Maggie. My last tip before we go, because I actually had a 1 o'clock call that's texting me right now. But last tip, time block, people. One thing I was terrible at, I was very, very bad at and I do a lot of things every single day. And what I realize is I have to block my time to do certain things on certain days at certain times. If you are a person who's going to try to do 10 things within an hour for 10 different situations, you will suck at all 10 things. Take that hour, 2 hours, that day, a half day. Like I block my days, Wednesdays are typically only for WheelHouse. Mm-hmm. I get here, I do WheelHouse, I leave WheelHouse. I'm studying our guests on WheelHouse. Tuesdays I coach and train agents. A lot of other stuff pops in Tuesdays and Thursdays, but a lot of other stuff pops in. But I'm very much directed in that hour that I'm doing my work on whatever it is I'm doing. If I'm coaching a realtor, that realtor gets my undivided attention. So time block your stuff. Plan what you're going to do the next day, at least the night before. I put 5 things in my phone that I'm going to get accomplished the next day. And I feel like a failure in that day. We talked about winning the week, but if I don't do those 5 things, I've lost that day and that irritates me. So I've made myself accountable to me to get those 5 things done. I might do 1,000 things, but 5 big ticket things every night before I go to sleep. In my notes on my phone, I update those 5 things. And then if it takes less than 5 minutes to do it now. That's our good buddy Mark Cuban's quote.
Yep.
Doesn't know he's our good buddy, but we talk about him on the show. I watch him on Shark Tank, so I feel like he's my buddy. And that is really as simple of a concept as that is. It has changed the way I do everything in my life. Even last night, I had to get laundry done to go on this trip, and I was putting it off because I had to go get it, take it down, to my washing machine, put it in there. Right. And I'm like, it takes less than 5 minutes. Walk over there, get it, put it in there, knock that off your list. Stop fucking around. Yeah. And I started to do that with everything in my life, whether it's a phone call I have to return, whether it's an email I have to send, whether it's I have to send somebody something. If it takes less than 5 minutes, I'm doing it right away if I have 5 minutes in that moment. That's my last tip. I could go on and on and on, but.
All right. So I am once again putting up the graphic for the event that I'm going to tonight. It's at the VIG Chicago, 1500 block of North Wells in Old Town. And the event is named Herd. And if you go to thevigchicago.com and click on the tab Herd at the top for tickets and info, use the promo code WheelHouse. It'll save you $30 on your ticket. And like I said, you don't have to pocket it. You can if you want. That's fine. But you can use it to tip a little extra, or I think they're going to have silent auctions and such. So anyways, whether it's full price, not full price, just come out and support it, please. And if you see me, say hello, and we'll have a conversation and a cocktail. You, sir, have a wonderful time in Tahiti or Tahiti adjacent.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, congratulations, Lawrence. Happy to see that guy get married. Jen's a great gal, and she's got the most charming British man on her arm. So congratulations to them. I'm excited to celebrate and party with everybody out there.
Very, very cool. So iTunes, before Mo gets back, so within 2 weeks and 2 days. And tomorrow, if you see a picture of a $50 bill, you know that I held my partner accountable.
Or a Chase Quick Pay.
Or a Chase Quick Pay, whichever. But we will see you in 2 weeks, 2 days. We might do a couple live streams. We're actually going to try and, I don't know if it's going to work.
We'll try from Tahiti. We're going to try to give you guys one from Tahiti.
Yeah.
We'll see how my Wi-Fi is out there. My satellite phone obviously doesn't have FaceTime.
Satellite phone.
It doesn't have FaceTime, so I can't FaceTime you. But if my my phone works, I will do a quick live chat, show you guys around the cool over-the-water bungalow I have.
Yes, I'll be jealous.
I have John said, we can't wait to see you relaxing in the sun, Moser. Can't wait to see you there either, buddy. John's going to be there. He's a good buddy of Lawrence's, good buddy of mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do it from a John, they're all chiming in. Everybody decided to ask questions in
in the last
comment like
minutes.
the last 30 seconds. Johnny says, "Can I be on your show in Tahiti?" Yeah, sure, buddy. I'll maybe do it. I have a waterproof iPhone case, so maybe I'll just do it on a float while I'm floating around the bungalow in the lagoon just to make everybody feel
Really,
bad.
dude, really.
Thanks, Tim. Tim said, "Enjoy your trip." But yeah, I'm excited. We'll try to FaceTime you guys from Tahiti.
We'll try and FaceTime. We'll see what we can do. But if not, we will definitely be back 2 weeks, 2 days. And I think we're out.
Yeah, we're out. See you
All
guys.
right. Bye.
Bye.
In 3, 2, 1.